Well, let's concentrate on issues ahead that will hit us in the next 10 days or maybe in the next 3 weeks. Power stocks have run up of late in anticipation of a positive election outcome, by which I mean a positive a Modi government with a stable majority. The BSE Power Index is up 14% in the last 3 months. One of the big successes of the Gujarat Modi government has been 24/7 power supply across the state. What lessons can the next government, a possible Modi government at the centre, draw from the Gujarat model? P.K. Mishra, former chairman of the Gujarat Electricity Regulatory Commission, and Mr. P. Umashankar, former power secretary, join in. Gentlemen, welcome. Well, obviously first to you, Mr. Mishra. You have headed the electricity board, and thereafter you were also the chairman of the regulatory commission. What were the key things that the Gujarat government got right to ensure 24/7 electricity supply?
Actually, the Gujarat government did 4 things in order to ensure 24/7 power supply. In fact, 7 years ago or even 8 years ago, Gujarat also had shortage of power. 4 things I would like to mention. Number 1, increasing the installed capacity to produce electricity. It increased by 2.5 times in about a decade. 2, improving the transmission and distribution system. 3, improving the governance of power utilities. And finally, a very effective regulatory system. These are the 4 major pillars, in addition to, of course, certain innovative measures like separating the feeders in the rural areas, in the sense that earlier there used to be a single feeder for both agriculture and domestic power supply. It was separate for agriculture or irrigation, and separately for domestic power supply. This is a very simple initiative, but it is strange that such an initiative could not be taken during the last 30-40 years. And this changed the entire socio-economic fabric of the rural areas, not only the regular power supply, but it brought about tremendous socio-economic change, in the sense that people got electricity 24 hours for small industries, for their domestic use, and so on. So these are some of these initiatives which have changed and transformed the face of power sector in Gujarat.
Okay, Mr. Mishra, good morning. Thank you for laying down those for us. So let's talk about what the way forward could look like, because the biggest problem that the power sector faces, one of the biggest problems, is fuel shortages, and you constantly hear, some of these producers complaining about gas shortages leading to idling of projects, etc. How do you think the new government can improve this fuel shortage issue?
So fuel shortage issue, of course, goes much beyond the electricity sector. One way to look at it, improve the efficiency of the Coal India, or improve the efficiency of, say, other fuel suppliers. The other view is that if the power sector operates efficiently, if the price signal goes, for example, if you improve the conditions of the electricity utilities or the distribution companies, and they are able to pay for the fuel cost on time, then things can improve. The point I am trying to make is that even in Gujarat also, even now, the power sector is very adversely affected by, say, problems of supply of fuel. But they are able to purchase power even at a higher rate because the electricity distribution companies are viable. Because that is also another area, because about 7 years ago they were not viable, they were making losses. Now most of them are making some profit also.
Actually, sir,
so that is,
on that point, actually...
that brings us to the
Yeah,
sorry.
Mr. Mishra, actually on that point I want to get Mr. Umashankar in. You're right about the manner in which the distribution companies were turned around. Now, of course, the holding companies, GUVNL, my notes say 2001 loss of 2,200 crores and 2005-06 it's a gain of, it's a profit of 250 crores. Mr. Umashankar, you know, this is not the state of most of the distribution companies. Most of them are still where GUVNL or Gujarat distribution companies were in 2001-2, losses. So, who will buy the power? How quickly can a central government change the situation of the solvency of the buyers, the distribution companies?
I would like to also focus on 2 points that Mr. Mishra had raised. One is about fuel shortage and second is about the health of the distribution companies. So coming to the second point that you raised, health of the distribution companies, the central government can only do so much. See, what is to be done is that the state regulators are the ones who will decide the tariffs for the distribution companies. So we have one set of states which are under the financial restructuring plan, about 7 states or so, which have to ensure that tariffs are revised from time to time, annually in a sense, to ensure that there is no loss in sale of power. So this is something that the central government can definitely push forward to see that those 7 state distribution companies or state governments which are under the financial restructuring plan actually do those things which are required to make the distribution company commercially viable. That is one thing. The second thing is a large number of distribution companies actually borrow from banks, and the banks can definitely put conditions on the distribution companies that if the tariffs aren't revised and if these distribution companies do not become commercially viable over a period of time, they will stop extending loans. So you have a lot of leverage with the banks to see that the distribution companies move along the path of reform. That is something that can be done. The third thing I would say is that the Appellate Tribunal for Electricity already passed an order in 2011 mandating that the regulatory commissions would ensure that tariffs are revised annually and by a certain date, and that distribution companies would file tariff petitions to the regulatory commissions. If the distribution company fails to file the tariff petition, then the regulator is empowered so moto to proceed along and fix the tariffs. So these are some things that the central government can push along to see that distribution companies become viable and that the regulators and the distribution company and the state governments get together and ensure that they are viable. The one more point I would like to mention is, can I just again on the same thing of viability of distribution companies, the central government prepared a state distribution company responsibility bill. This bill sets forth the kind of things that the state will have to take to see that the distribution company is viable. This is something that the states will have to pass as a law and ensure that the distribution companies and the state governments get together to see that they become viable. These are some of the steps that the central government can take.
I just want to get